So as we know, the NHL has expanded to 31 teams this year with the adding of the Vegas Golden Knights. But there was an article that came out yesterday about Seattle putting out 660 million to renovate Key Arena for NBA and NHL franchise for NBA and NHL purposes. Could Seattle be the um, next expansion team? And this wouldn't happen until 2020. And where would Seattle fit if they are the next expansion team within the divisions? We are coming up in the next few years, in the next couple of years, that the new labor talks will be happening. Hopefully, there won't be a lockout. But with Seattle making this announcement and saying that they are very interested in having an NHL team, that could bode good for the talks for the NHLPA and the NHL. The NHL is going to want that money that's coming from Seattle, and the NHLPA is going to look at it as it's 25 more guys that'll have jobs. So hopefully, if Seattle does make a serious impact and wanting to make if they want to make a serious impact and they want to make a splash into the NHL, it should help the labor talks within the next couple of years. And quite frankly, I know we all don't want another lockout because we've most of us have come back, but there are going to be fans out there that are not going to want to come back after this next lockout. They're going to be done with all the labor talks, and we've had some good hockey since the last lockout in 2013. So let's look at it this way: where would Seattle fit in the NHL? So I've got the divisions written down here. If you can see them, you can see them. If not, I'll go explain it through you. Where where could Seattle fit? In the Atlantic Division, you got Boston, Buffalo, Detroit, Florida, Montreal, Ottawa, Tampa Bay, and Toronto. So they wouldn't go there. In the Metro Division, you got Carolina, Columbus, New Jersey, the Islanders, the Rangers, the Flyers, Pittsburgh, and Washington. They're far out west. They're not going to go there. But what I'm also going to try to do is maybe we can move some teams around. Let's have a little fun with this. In the Central, Chicago, Colorado, Dallas, Minnesota, Nashville, St. Louis, and Winnipeg. And in the Pacific, you've got Anaheim, Arizona, Calgary, Edmonton, Los Angeles, San Jose, Vancouver, and Vegas. Seattle should fit in the Pacific Division. That's where they would go. It's a natural rival for them in Vancouver since they're not too far apart from each other. And it could also be not less travel for all these specific teams playing interdivisional games. So that gives you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 teams in the Pacific Division. Well, if there's going to be 32 teams, how about we move teams that don't have enough interdivision right now? So you look at the Metro Division, they've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 teams. The Atlantic's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 teams. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 teams in the Central Division. So who could you move that'll balance this out from the Pacific Division? Well, why not move Arizona? Yes, I understand. So what if we move Arizona to the Central Division? You've got 8 teams in each division. You've got 8 in the Pacific, 8 in the Central, 8 in the Metro, and 8 in the Atlantic Division. But you're trying it, but if you want to keep, but how would you? That's the thing. What could you do if you don't want to move Arizona, but you're going to have 9 teams in one division? I mean, that's really the only case scenario that you've got. I mean, you'll have 9 teams in one division and 7 in another, and 7, 8 in one, and 8 in the other. The only logical move is to move Arizona to the Central, because you're not going to move Anaheim. They're straight off on the West Coast, and that's going to take away the rivalry from Los Angeles and San Jose. You're not going to move Calgary, and you're not going to move Edmonton, because that'll take away the battle with Alberta. As you're not being able to see my hand here. So that's really the only move you can make is moving Arizona. Here's the key to that. I mean, you're not going to move, like I said, you're not going to move Vancouver because Vancouver would be a natural rivalry with Seattle. And you're not going to move, I mean, if you moved Vegas, maybe if you move Vegas out of the Pacific and into the Central, so you put Arizona back in the Pacific, and you move Vegas out, and you put them in the Central, well, that's another key thing you could do. What I meant by if you have Arizona in the Central, that's a natural rivalry with the Winnipeg Jets because the Arizona Coyotes used to be the original Winnipeg Jets. So there you go. That could have that cross rival, kind of like Dallas and Minnesota. I mean, I don't know if that's really a rivalry, but you could have that rivalry right there between Winnipeg and Arizona if they're in the same division. Well, but if you move Vegas, you'll still have your Chicago and St. Louis rivalry. I mean, Chicago's having a great rivalry with Nashville, but you could have Vegas and Colorado as a rivalry, back to back in the same divisions. I mean, you're not going to move anybody from the Eastern Conference. There's no sense in moving anybody from the Eastern Conference. I think the Eastern Conference is perfectly fine the way it is. But if you move either Vegas or Arizona into the Central Division, you could have Vegas and Colorado as a rivalry. I mean, I know there's a lot of rivalries in the league, and it's all part of geography. I mean, you look at the rivalries that are in the Atlantic Division. I mean, you've got Boston and Montreal. That's an original six rivalry. As I drop my here, that's an original rivalry. I mean, Boston and Toronto, another original six. I mean, Detroit and Tampa Bay, they've had a rivalry for the past few years. I mean, look at the Metro. I mean, you've got the tri-state area pretty much covered up. You've got Jersey, the Islanders, the Rangers, Philly, and Pittsburgh, and Washington all in the same area. So you've got all that put together. I mean, Carolina and Columbus are in there, but you've got the five major teams that were in the Patrick division in the same division again, which makes the division a lot more tougher than it is now. So the only logical choice is moving Arizona or Vegas. I prefer to have Arizona in the Central Division. That way, you can spark that rival between Arizona and Winnipeg. But moving Vegas to the Central Division also makes sense because you can have Vegas and Colorado, two states that are next to each other, as a as a uh, as a rivalry. So adding Seattle is a good thing for the NHL. It's going to create it's going to create more player opportunities, and it'll also create rivalries if you move the teams, and you can have 8 teams in each division. Let me know what you guys think. I mean, I know the NHL expansion fee is $500 million, and the people that I've heard that are backing the the Seattle group, yeah, they'll find the $500 million. But if that's not the case, where else could you go if this falls through? Kansas City or Quebec? And if you're going to put Quebec in the league, somebody from the Metro has got to move. Or no, somebody from the Atlantic has got to move because you want Montreal, Toronto, and Quebec in the same division as it was back in the 80s because that's a natural rivalry. They're all near each other. I mean, and you could also add Ottawa to that group too because, but you would have to move somebody out into the Central, and that makes sense to me. You could move Detroit back to the Central, and you can have the Detroit and Chicago rivalry again. If Quebec ever gets a team, you can move Detroit back to the Central, put them back in the Western Conference, and you can have that rivalry between Detroit and Chicago again. But if it's Kansas City, you could put them in the Central, and that would even up everything 8-8. So that would make this more sense. But if Seattle looks like the new team, I'm okay with it. It's a beautiful city. One of the shows that I've been starting to watch, Grey's Anatomy, is based out of Seattle, so it's a beautiful city. So if Seattle is in, my Here's how my NHL would look with Seattle in. We would move Arizona. Move Arizona. This is how I would like to have it. You would move Arizona to the Central, have that rivalry with Winnipeg, see if we can start that going, and you would leave Vegas in the Pacific, and you would have Boston, Buffalo, Detroit, Florida, Montreal, Ottawa, Tampa Bay, and Toronto in the Atlantic, Carolina, Columbus, Jersey, Rangers, the Islanders, Flyers, Penguins, and Capitals, all in the Metro. You would have Chicago, Colorado, Dallas, Minnesota, Nashville, St. Louis, Winnipeg, and Arizona in the Central Division. And you would have Anaheim, Calgary, Edmonton, Los Angeles, San Jose, Vancouver, Vegas, and Seattle. If this is going to happen in 2020, that's how I believe. This is how I would like my NHL to look. I would like to see Arizona get moved to the Central Division and leave the Pacific Division as it is. Let me know what you guys think. If you're like, subscribe, and share. My friends, good night and good hockey.